Salute, General, Iro, Musa, Etiquette. I'm affectionately referred to as General Etiquette, and I've been thinking. I've been thinking about a variety of subject matter, but today specifically, I've been thinking about the emasculation of black men. Now, before I get into that, big shout outs to my bros, Broly Games and Bam Bam. Yo, they doing a real Super Saiyan challenge every day to start the year, 30 days. They already into it. Tune in, right? Go to my brother's page, like, comment, and subscribe. Tune in every night where they putting in pain, change your body, become a Super Saiyan. Do them 30 days, man. It's dope. It's definitely dope. So definitely go and do that. Back to the topic. Now, this one is a little bit tough for me because obviously I am a black man and all of my content surrounds the growth that I'm going through simultaneously, right? So a lot of the things that I talk about are things that I'm trying to engage, process, and dissect myself and really internalize and put into practice. So I was on Clubhouse, right? So shout out to Clubhouse. It's a dope app. People have those audio conversations, and there are people from all over the world, I imagine. And you're having dope conversations, different topics. You could hop in different conversations and basically get busy. The issue that I've been seeing on Clubhouse and everywhere else, and it's become so pervasive, right, that it actually inspired me to make a video, is the emasculation of black men. Right? I understand it. I get where it comes from all angles. The depictions of black men, right? Right? The falsities, right? The fact that they say we have proclivities for violence, crime, all of the things that we all know are induced by the other factors that aren't being addressed, the failures in our systems, the failure in our history, the way that this country has failed us. We all know that a lot of the issues that stem from our communities are intricately tied to the active and proactive oppression of us. With that being said, the emasculation of black men also by black women. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I had somebody reach out to me in my DM and they was like, knowing you, I'd imagine that you feel that black men are being emasculated on these different platforms. And I jumped. So I was like, well, let me hop in and see what the conversations are sounding like. And whilst there are, so let me also say this. Let me preface my point by saying this. There are bullshitters and then there are real people, right? People, there's a scatter plot of professions, disciplines, things you can get into, but at the end of the day, there are solid people and there are people who are not, and that's how I grade people. Salute and shout out to you for whatever you amass and acquire in your lifetime, but solid versus not is the most fundamental way to look at it, right? So now when we think about that, there are always going to be views. Yeah, there are black men who don't show up the way they need to. That's true because there are also people from all different demographics, like I said, who just aren't solid, right? But this pervasive and prolonged notion that niggas ain't shit or black men ain't shit, or, right, the disrespect, the cutting off, the shaming, right? The talking over. I'm in these platforms, I'm listening to these conversations, and I'm hearing black men being interrupted. I'm hearing them being talked over. I'm hearing shaming tactics. I'm hearing deflection, interruption. And then when we ask ourselves, well, why is it okay when black women do things like that to black men? I wanted to join the conversation and I wanted to ask, because whilst the young women were making salient points, I was like, the navigation of this conversation is extremely disrespectful. There's groupthink happening, right? Slandering the man, using provocative language, elevating temperature, being very, very disrespectful, right? So much so that there are groups on this app questioning not only Are black men emasculated by black women, but also do black men pander to black women? Right? So it's not just what I've been seeing. There are actually groups specific to this question. And what I'd say is, yes, black men are pandering to black women on these various sites. And yes, black men are being emasculated. Listen to these conversations. Listen to men being interrupted, being disrespected, being slandered, being shamed, right? With things that aren't pertaining to the conversation, looking from an objective and unbiased viewpoint. And really and truly, it starts with black men. Going to the question that I hopped in the conversation, do black men pander? Yes, because we don't stand up for ourselves, right? And then we have gentlemen who put who put air beneath the sails of actions like that. Disrespect, and there's nobody curtailing this behavior. There's nobody calling order to these forums. There's nobody saying those things aren't necessary, or when a woman does it. So when a man gets inflated and you can hear the inflection in his voice rising and the temperature rising, he's asked to reel it in. He's told to calm down. But when the woman elevated, when she disrespected him, when she slandered him, when she used provocative language, when she addressed the way that he looked, although that wasn't relevant to the conversation, why is those behaviors okay and some not? Really and truly, everybody should engage in civil debate and civil discourse. And because I wasn't able to chime in, because also in this app, you have to understand, unless you're moderating your own conversation, the moderators are in charge of who they allow to sit on the panel and come into the platform and articulate their thoughts. And I personally believe the very questions that were trying to be answered, a lot of the beta males that have been moderating these conversations, right, have not curtailed the behaviors when it has become too much unnecessary, disrespectful, and emasculating. So to answer the very questions they're trying to ask, yes, men are being emasculated, and it's visceral, and in some spaces, and then let me also take a second to shout out all of the black women who come to the defense of and stand up for black men. That's not what we're discussing. I know black women show up consistently for black men. We're talking about in our relationship, black men via black women, in these spaces, on social media platforms. This is what I've observed. These are the groups that are being curated to answer these very questions. And shout out to the women that are in these groups that are speaking up on behalf of black men. Salute and shout out to you. But there are groups that aren't even questioning these things that are talking about relationships, where it is visceral. If you enter into the conversation, it's chaotic, it's groupthink, it's slanderous, it's derogatory, it's stifling, it's suffocating, and it's cringeworthy to some degree if you're listening, trying to hear objective conversation. And these are the ones that aren't even pertaining to that question. Then the ones that are asking these questions, the moderators are still allowing the conversations to become emasculating. They aren't curtailing behavior. They aren't asking for equal order on both sides between man v woman when having these conversations. So a lot of the times, like I said, black men, I know black men feel disrespected. I'm a black man. Everywhere we look, our mothers try to emasculate us. The women in our lives try to emasculate us. When you understand the navigation red pill ideology and you understand how life goes, if you look in these forums, a lot of it is problematic in the way in which black men are being engaged. And it's only reflective. So whilst the forum was meant to provide a space for people to converse and have this civil discourse, it's highlighting and illuminating a larger issue. But on this channel, we build community through thought-provoking discourse. So of course, the goal, as black men and women are having conversations about how we move our communities forward, how we move into a more promising tomorrow, whatever your ideal looks like, whatever Wakanda is for you, Whilst we're having these meetings of the mind, whilst we're trying to say the battle of the sexes is over, the gender war is over, right? We need to come together and or be on the same page to move into a more prosperous tomorrow. I ask women to be cognizant of this behavior, and I ask black men to move differently. In these spaces, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to defend yourself if you want to make a point, and don't feel shamed. Don't feel targeted for having a point. You have to have a backbone. You have to stand on your points, right? So I definitely, it was a little bit triggering for me, right? Almost to the point where I had to make this video. A couple people had DM'd me, asked me my thoughts about the emasculation of black men on Clubhouse and other social media outlets, and I just have to call it like I see it. We definitely always want to build toward a more promising tomorrow. So like I said, on these places, we have to be cognizant of the way that we're engaging each other as we want to grow and as we want to come together. We all have to take accountability for the way that we show up, the things that we're saying, the ways that we're maneuvering and navigating, and how that's impacting people. So how I say, man, the law of attraction, whatever you put out there, you get 10 times over. It takes nothing from one candle to light another, one flame to light another. If you see me in the street, say what's up, but you probably won't because of the Rona. So I prefer you salute. General, Iro, Musa, etiquette.